Thankfully, it is quite a long circuit, so our drivers should be able to find themselves a little bit of track space. As you can see, the class grading, the class divides are on the left-hand side of your screen, color-coded there. Clubman, Clubman Plus, Pocket Rocket, two-wheel drive, and four-wheel drive. That's Club two-wheel drive and Club four-wheel drive. So there we go. That's David Dyson on your screens right now. So throughout the course of the year, we've seen a tight battle in Club two-wheel drive. No less than between David Dyson and Ross Walker in their two Teutonic track machines, the BMW M4 and the 911 GT3, both running at the fast, sharp end of our competitive order pretty much all year, and for as long as both of these drivers have been involved, they've been at the sharp end of whatever they do. Ross Walker in the Ross Sport BMW M4 and David Dyson there in that Porsche 911 GT3. And warm-up and qualifying, yes, they don't strictly count for any points. Warm-up and practice. But that being said, we did already see some trends beginning to emerge, and it looked like the usual suspects were fast at Donington, just as they were fast around other circuits as well. And you can see David Lawrence there trying to tuck into the slipstream of Ross Walker's BMW M4. David Lawrence back with that Seat Leon Cupra, new for this year, though of course we are 8 months into this year, so it's no longer new, one could argue. So David Lawrence there trying to benefit of that toe of the faster machine of Ross Walker, who currently leads in the championship, at least ahead of David Lawrence. You can see him running a little bit wide there, really exploring the boundaries of what can be done. We did see during practice and warm-up, the drivers weren't pushing terribly hard, again, because there aren't any points on the line. The purpose of warm-up and practice is really, as the names would suggest, and they do not count towards any kind of championship points. They are really there to try to set up yourself, to try to set up your approach, your understanding of the track today, the weather, your braking points, your turning points, your lines, and to try to understand the setup of your car. So in addition to warming up yourself and practice your own lines, you're also doing a little bit of R&D for the car's setup to get it all ready and dialed in for this qualifying session. Now, David Dyson then goes fastest of all as we start to complete our out laps. The hot laps start coming in, and we can see then our respective purple lap times for the various class leaders. So in this particular instance, a purple means best in class, not best overall, best in class, and an orange sector means a personal best. That's my understanding of this particular color coding. There you can see the Perron Audi TT RS of Sean Wheatley, which has been also very quick today. That is a single round entry, the number 79, so it doesn't really get scored and classified in the championship because it's only doing 1 or 2 rounds. And there you go. Samuel Pickering then goes fastest of all so far with a 115.6 in that Subaru Impreza Type RA, full of homebrew carbon fiber goodies. Samuel Pickering having explored all the usual avenues for a home build, and now deciding to go, well, not even now, for a few seasons ago, deciding to go on an extreme weight loss mission, and having done everything else, now thought, look, I'm going to DIY these composite panels. I'm going to make my car as quick and as light as I possibly can, all in the comfort of my own home. And you know, you have all of these websites online. I believe he used Easy Composites, got all of these materials, and just through trial and error learned to make composite panels. And now I believe his panels, especially the thinner ones, are something like 800 grams. At least this was the case last year. Perhaps he's since beefed them up, but from what I understand, his early, you know, semi-transparent panels, they were so light, 800 grams as opposed to, you know, multiple kilos that a panel would weigh. So very, very light there. And Samuel Pickering really reaping the fruit of that work with a 114.9. He goes faster still. You can see that purple lap time up on your screens, leading Club 4-wheel drive and leading overall. And you can see then the Gizfab K11 Micra of Eden Young just yielding to that traffic as it comes through. We didn't see the Gizfab entry last time out at Anglesey, but you can see it looks like a bit of smoke coming from the back of that car. Potentially some kind of oil situation. Hopefully, a bit concerning. Gizfab and Eden having a massive following on the social media, and I'll try to catch some of your comments if I have time, and we can have a bit of a discussion. But meanwhile, let's focus on the qualifying then. The number 145 car of Sean O'Mara, the Delano-built racing Honda Integra Type R, has also been very quick today. I think 5th fastest overall and kind of 2nd, 3rd in class at points earlier in the day. You can just see him yielding there to Ross Walker in that BMW M4. And there's Samuel Pickering with his headlights on in front of the machine, the number 71 Mitsubishi Evolution of Dean Taylor, the RG Motorsport car. You can see there in baby blue, just coming across the timing line. And Samuel Pickering, you can see a lot of these drivers have their headlights on, and that indicates their headlights have just switched off for Sam Pickering. So the headlights on mean that you are on a hot lap and everyone else needs to get out of your way. Headlights off and cooling light on, like you can see it flashing there in Samuel Pickering's car, meaning that you're in a cool down lap, and so you will yield to those who are on a hot lap. Because, you know, in addition to just the skill of setting a fast lap, you've also got to be able to do it whilst everyone else is doing it. That is the key skill here at Time Attack. And, you know, if you wanted to go and be on your own on a lonely circuit doing a hill climb, or even on a purpose-built circuit, you know, some kind of sprint where you're just by yourself, absolutely fine. There's series that cater to that. Bit boring in my own opinion. Time Attack here, you know, the whole skill is doing that whilst navigating the traffic as well. And the headlight etiquette and the awareness of the circuit around you are key parts of that. Andrew Hawes setting the fastest time in his own class. And there we go, that's Clubman. So he's in the Mini Challenge 210, one of only 210 made. Meanwhile, Chris Atkins in the number 385 car, Driveway Motorsport Renault Megane R26. He's a single round entry here. And he messaged me separately to say, look, actually, and you see this so much in Time Attack, right? These are, at the end of the day, even if they're representing a big tuning house, whatever it is, you know, this isn't the corporate face of Ferrari or Mercedes or whatever. A lot of these are privateers or small companies. These are people with really human stories. And Chris Atkins, he was testing here on, well, testing, doing a track day. Track days are not testing, if anyone's listening. Track days are not timed. But he was doing a track day here at Donington, and he broke the car. And thanks to his dad, and I presume himself, running around the whole country gathering bits to fix that car up for today, he is able to compete in Time Attack at Donington Park today. So massive, massive kudos both to Chris Atkins and to Mr. Atkins Sr. Meanwhile, there's Steve Wilkinson in that Renault Clio RS, I believe that is, having made the leap from Run What You Brung into the full Time Attack Championship. There we go, Stephen Wilkinson, Team W Racing in that Renault Clio RS. On the subject of Clios, I was also speaking to Ilya Krylov of hashtag Ruski Weld Fab. Some of you may know his social media through a different expletive-laden name. He's replaced that with Fab now. And in fact, I see a checkered flag out. Well, yes, so the sessions are now slightly less long because we are actually massively behind schedule. So some of the sessions are running a little bit short. You can see some damage there to that Team Confusion car. Anyway, so Ilya Krylov with that, so he aspires as the head of Ruski Weld to build the fastest circuit Clio in the country that still uses an original Clio engine. So, you know, not K-swapped, not a V6 swap, nothing like that. It's the standard engine that a 172, 182 Clio came on, admittedly, you know, forged and boosted and so on, but still the standard engine, you know, not swapped out with anything else. And he aspires to build the fastest in the UK. That being said, it is currently broken with gearbox troubles, so he's here in one of their spare cars Ruski Weld Fab having a whole bunch of Clios at their disposal. And there we go. So that is, you can just see the Perron car of Sean Wheatley, the Audi TT RS, crossing the line. And there is David Dyson. And where is David Dyson right now? So he is leading his class, Club 2-wheel drive. But Samuel Pickering, the fastest overall, with a 1:14.5 in that Subaru Impreza Type RA. Again, full of homemade, beautiful composite goodies, and he is leading the way in that Subaru Impreza Type RA overall, and of course thus also leading his own class. David Dyson then just behind that in the Porsche 911 GT3 with a 1:15.0, and you can see that looks like the machine of Andy York. And speaking of engine swaps and, say, Ilya Krylov's decision to not engine swap his Clio, Andy York's Peugeot 205 is powered by a very not original engine. That is a Honda K-Series swap, massively popular these days. And K-Series swaps have been popular all over the place, of course, for a very long time. But it seems like that's an upward trend that's really intensified lately, and for good reason. You know, the K-Series is a phenomenal engine, especially as a track engine. I don't get on with them loads as a road-going engine, as a street car engine, but I think as a track car engine, you can't really get much better than that super responsive, high revving, light, powerful, reliable Honda K-Series. Sean Wheatley then still out doing some laps, even though the checkered flag has been out for a while, so I do wonder what's going on there. Let's have a look at our order then, which of course you can see on the side of your screens. So fourth fastest overall and second in Club 4-wheel drive is James Ramsden in the 989 Mitsubishi Evo 10, which, you know, a few rounds now, I've noticed that, and we've discussed this with yourselves in the comments and so on, that most flavors of Mitsubishi Evolution are well catered for at Time Attack and beyond. From even here, we've got from 5 all the way through to 9 as regulars. But you never really see an Evo 10, and it seems like James Ramsden then rising to the cause and bringing his Mitsubishi Evo 10 here to Time Attack, and not only doing that, but finishing 4th overall in a very competitive session. We've got 26 cars out on track just now, and James Ramsden coming 4th overall, 2nd in Club 4-wheel drive. He is a single round entry, so he doesn't really figure into the championship, but it's great to see a Mitsubishi Evo 10 here, of all things, doing some great lap times here at Donington Park. Time Attack now looking towards the pit lane. You can see our pro cars just getting ready to head out. That's Darren Spooner at the front of that queue in that Peugeot-powered Peugeot 205, and like the machine of Andy York, both built and run by Spooks Motorsport. Arguably, well, in my opinion, probably one of the world's leading fast Peugeot specialists, definitely in the UK. Again, in my opinion. And Darren Spooner and that car are real Time Attack veterans. They have been around for an absolute eon, and it's great to see that car just keep developing, you know. And Time Attack in a lot of ways has moved on to newer machinery, sequential gearboxes, DSGs, all this kind of stuff. You know, the technology has really moved on, and we see a lot of newer chassis here in Time Attack. You just see Russ Walker's M4 off to the side of the screen, which is a relatively new car. There's a whole mix of stuff. And then you have the Peugeot 205 of Darren Spooner, still very relevant and leading, being very competitive in whatever class it enters. And this is, for me, the beauty of Time Attack, is it's just such a variety of cars. And the way the format is run and the way the rulebook is, they still manage to all be relevant. You know, no car is too silly for Time Attack. And in fact, you look at the Team Confusion machine, the Ford Fusion, today driven by Mike Sanford, and you realize that even that has become very competitive here in Time Attack. So, you know, this is the rule book, the scope of it is such that you can really, you know, if you have the means to do so, and the intellect and, you know, the expertise. You can build anything into something very competitive here. And Darren Spooner in a Peugeot 205 of all things, very competitive here as well. And, you know, speaking about variety, that's Scott Carruthers Mazda RX-7 on your screens now. I believe also Honda powered. And for those Mazda fanatics, you'll know that's an FD3S chassis. Scott Carruthers having competed a lot in Time Attack over the years, and today he is back as a single round entry in Pro 2-wheel drive, sharing the class with Jeff Alden in the Matrix Motorsport Volkswagen Golf. Both of these single round entries. Now the green flag is out, so our session is live. So our Pro cars are now going to take a moment just to complete their outlap and then begin their first flying lap. The fastest time we've seen so far was from Colin Dorwood, and I believe that was in the 1-minute 10s. So about in 1 minute and 10 seconds from now, we'll start to see the flying laps pouring in.
I don't even know where they are at the moment.
So there you go. That is the older. We've seen David Dyson's Porsche 911 GT3. This is the older style Porsche 996 GT3 Cup of Steve Henson, entered in the GT3 sports car and prototype class. One of my favorite classes, actually. I mean, I love all of them. I just love Time Attack. But the GT3 sports car and prototype class exists to allow cars that are past their rule book, past their formula, to still have a competitive life. Because as you all know, in a lot of endurance and sports car competition, the rule book changes every 3-4 years, and the formula advances, and older cars are no longer relevant or eligible. And generally they just then sit in a garage somewhere gathering dust. And Time Attack gives them an outlet where they can still compete and still be relevant. And in fact, if you want to throw the rule book out of the window, take off the restrictor plates, take off the success ballast, whatever, you know, turn it up to 11, you can, even if you've got an endurance or a GT car. So, you know, that's the ethos behind GT3 sports car and prototype class. One of my favorites here. Meanwhile, let's have a look at Darren Spooner then. You can just see that little short wheelbase Peugeot 205. It's so alive, just pivots around itself as it makes its way through Donington, hot on the heels of what looks like the machine of Paul Doyle, the 245 BC Racing Subaru Impreza. As it comes into focus, that is indeed what it is. Both make their way past Jeff Kershaw, who allows them past. Jeff Kershaw, the main man at Turbo Technics, which this year celebrates its 40th anniversary, and an absolutely iconic brand in the aftermarket world, and one to which we owe a lot as car enthusiasts, because they were one of the early adopters of turbochargers, the early adopters of turbo conversions, turbo upgrades, and so on. So on their 40th anniversary in the business, I salute them. Thank you, Jeff Kershaw, for your efforts over the past 40 years. Absolutely incredible. Meanwhile, we were just talking about how Mitsubishi Evos are reasonably commonplace in Time Attack. And there you go. There's a whole little gaggle of them with Andrew Barber right at the front of that queue. There we go. He goes fastest in his class with a 113.8, just behind Darren Spooner with a 113.5, leading their respective classes. Spooner in Club Pro 2-wheel drive and Barber in Pro 4-wheel drive, BC Racing Pro 4-wheel drive. Ian Pittman at the front of his class, setting a lap time of 134 in the Subaru Impreza Type R. Presumably just completing his outlaps and thus defaulting to the fastest time in that class. Darren Spooner then still on top, but we've seen lap times far quicker than this. And there you go, you can see our various drivers beginning to put in their fastest laps. In the less subscribed classes, if there's only one car on track right now, then their outlap and their initial fast laps will be the fastest laps in their class. It's just one of those things, isn't it? So I wouldn't get too excited about those just yet. But meanwhile, Darren Spooner then remains on top. Meanwhile, thank you everyone getting involved in the comments. A lot of well-wishers, a lot of luck there being wished to people. We can see Dawn Glenn saying, come on, Ian Pittman. Elizabeth Kime saying, come on, Andrew Kime, you can do it. So great to see you all getting involved. Thank you very much. I'm going to try to keep my eye on the comments and stuff, but we do have a very, very busy schedule to deal with, so perhaps I won't be able to get back to everything. Meanwhile, Darren Spooner, perhaps satisfied with his work, he has come back into the pit lane. Scott Carruthers goes fastest in Pro 2-wheel drive. Where is he on the screen? With a 1:16.3. Meanwhile, Andrew Barber goes fastest of all with a 1:11.1. Bearing in mind, this is qualifying, so we have points on the line here, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't just warm-up. This isn't just practice. This is where points are won and lost. And so Andrew Barber there with that statement of intent, jumping right to the top of the leaderboard in qualifying so far with that provisional so-called pole. Bearing in mind that qualifying is a legacy term. Doesn't really mean you're qualifying or not qualifying for anything. It's just, you know, a throwback to days gone by. But qualifying does have that importance. It does have that clout as a point-scoring session. Hence, it's got that important-sounding name. Scott Carruthers, then, you can just see this is the fight in Club 2-wheel drive, I believe. Maybe we've got Scott Carruthers, anyway, whatever. Colin Dorward then goes faster still of anybody with a 1:10.5. Right back on the pace we saw earlier this morning. Nobody yet to crack into below the 1:10 10s, so perhaps we might see Colin Dorward do that now. We've got 4 minutes remaining on the clock, but I am mindful that we are running to a condensed schedule. So I'm not too sure when the checkered flag is going to be coming out. Meanwhile, Scott Carruthers then currently running fastest in class, which is Pro 2-wheel drive with a 1:14.4. Colin Dorward remaining on top in that Mitsubishi Evolution ahead of Andrew Barber. They are in different classes, though. Colin Dorward in Pro Extreme and Andrew Barber in BC Racing Pro 4-wheel drive. And you can just see Scott Carruthers then coming around. And I don't blame the camera people for following him around because it's a truly unique car. You don't often see an FD3S anywhere, let alone in competition. Big flame out of the side of Roman Grandel's machine there in Club Pro 2-wheel drive. Roman Grandel in the Motor City Performance Audi S3. There it is on your screens. Now, those of you wondering why it's in Pro 2-wheel drive, Club Pro 2-wheel drive, sorry, as they are all-wheel drive from the factory, that's because Roman's machine is not running a factory drivetrain. That is now a very spicy gearbox, and it is now front-wheel drive only is Roman Grandel's machine, the Motor City Performance Audi S3, which you can see on your screens there. Meanwhile, Paul Doyle in the BC Racing Subaru Impreza, the number 245 machine with that massive, super aggressive aero, really coming in handy here at Donington Park, which is a track that demands a lot of speed to be carried through it. It's a very fast track, and it's a very challenging track. It's a little bit intimidating as well, just because you've got to keep your foot planted for a big chunk of the lap and just try to thread your way through the very fast flowing corners. So that aero, especially as we move into the pro classes, really paying dividends there. Roman Grandel then with his headlights on, just signaling to everybody around him that he is on a hot lap and he is not here to take prisoners. And if he does come across slow-moving traffic, they will be blue flagged out of the way. But he has also got his cool-down light on, so I'm not too sure what's happening there. So Roman Grandel then on a flyer, having set so far a best time of 1:31.7, but having spoken to him a few times, not today, but at other rounds, I do know he's having a lot of teething problems with that car. So I think for him, the main goal is to just finish the days, get some good data, get some good development in the bag, and not really stress too much about the running order for now. He's just trying to get the car running sweet. That being said, yep, he's still 1:31.7, so the lowest on our running order right now. Meanwhile, Colin Dorward still at the top with that 1:10.5, 1.1 seconds clear of absolutely anybody else. Paul Doyle, his nearest competitor in Extreme, has a fastest lap so far of 1:13.0, so that's probably unlikely to change right now. And so Colin Dorward calling it a day, calling it a session at least, and parking up his machine. Meanwhile, those of you following along at home, if you do want to follow one particular driver, then by all means, please go onto the website of our timekeeping partner, TSL. That's Tango Sierra Lima, TSL Timing, and you can get the same timing screens that I have right now in front of me. And you can have all of that data, all of those insights at your fingertips, whether you're just a little bit too much into time attack or maybe you're following a particular driver, you're able to have all of that data right there in front of you. Meanwhile, Roman Grendel just making his way through. 13 seconds in this session remaining before the checkered flag comes out, so he is unlikely to begin another flying lap, and perhaps we're not even going to see that much of an order change in the closing seconds of this session. Colin Dorward then remains unchallenged in the top spot with a 1 minute 10.5 second lap that he set on lap 6. The checkered flag is out, and you can see all of the lap times sorted by class down the left-hand side of your screen. The GT3 sports car and prototype class having only one lap time in there. That's Steve Henson in that 996 Porsche GT3 Cup. And you can see everybody else then making their way back into the pits. You can even see marked next to the various names is also whether they are in the pits or not, whether they've taken the checkered flag or whether they are still out on a flying lap. So you can see a few drivers here yet to complete their flying lap. You can see Roman Grendel there in Club Pro 2-wheel drive, and you will see the checkered flag. There we go, the checkered flag has appeared. He has set a new personal best of 124.4, so just displacing Jeff Kershaw to the bottom of the table and taking third fastest in Club Pro 2-wheel drive, does Roman Grendel. Jeff Kershaw then in that Ford Focus with a best lap of 128.8. That rounds up our running here, so you can see most of the drivers. It looks like Jeff Alden still not having finished his final flying lap, and also Peter Smith in the Renault Megane Trophy. And there we go. So that concludes our qualifying. There we go. So the final sessions are now done. Everyone's claimed the checkered flag and/or is now in the pit. And it looks like while we wait for everybody to wind their way back into the pit lane, we've got Susie with Sean Wheatley. What have you got for us, Susie?
Been going pretty well, it looks like.
Yeah, it was. We had a good start. This was my first time at Donington, so I was getting used to the track. First session, second session, I did a 1:17.3. I was happy with. Car's feeling great. Last time out, I just ran into traffic, and then the brakes went on me a couple of times, so I had a little excursion.
It's not what you want at Donington, right?
Really what you want at Donington, and then I had to go and see the clerk of the course because I went through 2 checkered flags apparently. I was enjoying it so much, I didn't want to stop.
But you're having a much more successful today than at Alton because you had problems.
Great, it's, really good power, and yeah, we're looking forward to the next round. Well, this one's not over yet, but
car's running great so far, so no problems. Hoping for a good time in the final?
Not at all, no problems, just the brakes. But this season we're doing single round, and then next season we're going to do the championship. So that's the idea.
Excellent. Well, good luck out there in the final. It'll be interesting to see what times you do.
Thanks, Susie.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks, guys. So there we go. That's the qualifying result then for our pro session. That's Club Pro 2-wheel drive on your screens now. Darren Spooner leads from Robinson, leads from Grendel. Club Pro 4-wheel drive with Ian Pittman from Sims, from Cherry, from Kershaw. Then we have Pro Extreme there, Dorward from Doyle, from Smith. GT3 sports car and prototype. Pro 2-wheel drive. And BC Racing Pro 4-wheel drive. And that rounds up our qualifying session. So Time Attack will be back for the final, the big point scoring session of the day. That is scheduled for 5 o'clock. I'm not too sure how that's all going to pan out, but let's just assume we'll be sticking to the schedule. So we would like to see you back here quite shortly, actually, because that's in half an hour. So yes, that rounds up our qualifying coverage, and we will be back very shortly with the final.